So what is quite surprising is that the minimum income required to get a skilled worker visa in the UK actually only just covers a decent living if you were moving there in the first place. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about how much you actually need to make for moving to the UK to be manageable. Now this is targeted at people who are looking to work in the UK, especially from the perspective of someone moving there from Asia. So we'll be splitting this video into two parts. I'll be talking a bit about my own budget in the UK and then back solving for a reasonable salary level that you're going to want to expect if you want that kind of lifestyle and are moving to the country on a single basis. So let's jump right into it. First of all, we will start with necessities. Now that would definitely include things like rent, transport, and food. So first of all, rent. In terms of rent, I personally paid around £1,100 per month in base rent for a studio apartment in Zone 4. This could have increased to around £1,200 to £1,500 depending on where you stay. This is even if you stay within Zones 2 to 4. If you want something more central, it is going to be considerably more, probably in the range of £2,000. Once you have gotten that out of the way, there is also council tax to pay. What they actually use this for, I have no idea. But apparently it costs about £100+ a month. On top of that, there are also bills. So let's say council tax plus bills brings you to around £300 per month. Moving on to food. If you were to do your own meals yourself, then that could be a lot cheaper. Perhaps £200 a month on groceries is actually possible if you don't shop at Waitrose. However, if you are a busy professional, you're working from home and just want something inexpensive, say a meal deal that costs about £3.50 or maybe £4 per day, then you might budget for about £7 per day, working out to around £210 a month, assuming you do that on a daily basis. But that is definitely not sustainable and not enjoyable in the slightest. So you are going to want to eat out a bit, which you should budget around £100 per month for doing so. That will give you about one eat out meal per weekend, double that if you want to go out twice per week. Now let's factor in things like transport. In my case, being in Zone 4 of London, that costed me around £200 a month. Now let's move on to the lifestyle section. And in this case, the first one is going to be the nights out. Now, if you go on 2 to 3 nights out, you're going to want to budget at least £100 a month. Of course, you may do this more or less depending on your preference. Furthermore, if you are going to be doing weekend trips to Europe, that typically costed me about £250 per trip, inclusive of flights, given that flights are really cheap over there with stuff like Ryanair and Wizz. Anything above that, however, is discretionary, so you could end up paying quite a bit more depending on your preference. Finally, let's move on to the gym, which did cost me about £85 a month. I decided to go for a higher end gym if you compare what you see in the UK to something that you would see in somewhere like Singapore or Hong Kong. Then you might be disappointed by the baseline level of cleanliness in some of these mass market gyms. So the upgrade was definitely worth it in my opinion. Putting all of this together, that worked out to a total spend of about £2,745 per month. So now let's answer the question, what is a good enough salary to live comfortably doing all of the stuff that you want as an international in the UK, specifically in London? Now overall, with £2,700 to £2,800 per month, that works out to just around £44,000 per year pre-tax. So that is the offer that you are going to want to look for if you are looking for that kind of lifestyle. Now, if you want to cut back on some of the luxuries, such as, for example, saving £70 by going to Pure Gym, or looking to cut back on rent by sharing a room with some rando, then that is going to reduce your spending considerably. Let's say you reduce it by £300 and reduce your travel to once per quarter, amortized over that quarter, you save £150. Then you could realistically reduce the salary that you need to around 35 to 38k per annum in London. That is basically the minimum required for a skilled worker visa as of today. That is quite a surprise because that means that this minimum salary limitation, especially when applied to single people, is a pretty reasonable benchmark for what would afford you a relatively decent living. All in all, hope you found this video informative and useful, especially if you are someone from Asia like Singapore or Hong Kong considering a move to the UK, perhaps for work. Now, if you haven't checked out our previous video on why I actually left London, gave up a banking job over there, and took up my next stint in Singapore, and what I chose to take up in exchange, you're going to want to check out this video over here. With all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.